Namaste, my name is Chintamani Cloud, and in today's video I'll be offering us a demonstration as well as a workshop on coming into the headstand sequence at the end of our flow vinyasa practice. Traditionally, we do our deep back bends first, then we come into a shoulder stand sequence, and after that we're preparing the body to invert so that we're going to carry the heart above the head. To do this and to breathe steadily through that, we really need to take our core on board. So we're going to be focusing on the alignment that's going to be required to create that shape with the bodies. That's right. So we'll be using a comfortable yoga mat, maybe having some wall space in case it comes to that as well. And we'll find the magic of the inversions together. Namaste. In today's video, we'll be doing a nice workshop covering the inversion sequence of the headstand that is traditionally done in the primary series of the Ashtanga Yoga lineage. The way that this headstand appears in the sequence is after our deep back bends, then our shoulder stand inversion, and after a vinyasa from our shoulder stand inversion, we'll find ourselves in our downward facing dog. And I'll just demonstrate the sequence now. And I'm not going to be in this posture for as long as we traditionally be in, but I'll just cue that we'd be here for about 20 counts. Then we'd come here for about 10 counts. And for students that have been working on their inversion for a while, at this part of the sequence, we'd actually be lifting off of the head and balancing exclusively in the forearms and looking at the floor. I'm still at a place where I come back here for another 10 counts and then release out of the headstand. And then we come into a child's pose. And I'll just stay here for a few breaths so that I can realign through the spine and come back to my breath before lifting. And depending on where you're practicing and who you're practicing with, you're welcome to stay in that child's pose for 10 breaths or longer even before taking your vinyasa. So that's the headstand inversion. We're going to talk about different ways to modify that in case you're still building your practice. So if you don't feel comfortable enough, strong enough, or ready enough to try that, first way to build the strength is in our downward facing dog. Downward facing dog is sometimes in Western vinyasa confused and used as a shoulder opener, where we're often dislocating the joints or disengaging in the joints and coming into this kind of a shoulder opener. But really, our downward dog is our preparation for our inversions. So we want to be coming into this practice, we want to be engaging the shoulder girdle so we have the shoulders lift behind us and widening apart. And some of us might even benefit from bending the elbows slightly to really feel the upper body engaging here as we come into this. And we want to look back behind us as we lengthen the neck. Come into our deep breathing. And then we also want to find the bandha. So we want to see if we can engage the pelvic floor, the glutes, all the muscles that live along the spine. Redefining our core here. And you can stay here for the 20 counts. And then when it comes to that place of lifting and doing that half lift, a person can choose to lift one leg at a time. And we don't want to lift and come off of center. When we lift that leg up, we want to think about engaging the glutes, the outer hip, and breathing into that. And you can be there for 5 counts and then go to your left side, since everyone's going to be in that half lift position for about 10 counts. And then you can come back to your downward dog while everyone returns back to the full position of headstand before the vinyasa. Another option could be coming down onto our forearms and creating what's known in the West as sometimes as a dolphin pose. I often think of it as preparation for forearm balance. So instead of being in downward dog on through lifted wrists, we're going to be in our downward dog from our forearms. And then we can start with knees down to help us get us into this position. We're going to be pushing through the elbows to feel the shoulders engaging in the shoulder girdle. And then we're going to start off staring at the floor as we straighten out the legs. And so a person could choose to be here doing this instead for the headstand count. And then we want to actually get to a place where we release the head to lengthen the neck and tuck the chin in as we imagine the top of the head is reaching towards the floor, but it's not touching. And this is the second stage we want to get into. Third stage would be starting to even walk the feet in, and that's going to prep us for lifting one leg up at a time, which would be coming next. So I'm going to lower down onto my knees here and lift up out of that demo. Do some shoulder rolls, which is something you might be into doing anytime you're practicing your headstand, as it's often a misunderstood posture. We often place the weight of the head in towards the floor, and that really misaligns, or if we don't have the right strength and we're just pushing our head into the floor, that's going to really misalign the spine and create a rounding and arching in the neck. And that's something that we're really trying to avoid. We're trying to lengthen the spine and stay nice and tall and engage all the muscles that live along the spine. So that position where we're on our forearms and we are changing from, we might start out in this shape with the face looking at the floor, but in time we're going to try to get to this shape. I don't know if it's still visible. I'll move my hands back a little bit so you can make sure to see. We're going to get into this shape with the head. Once we're ready to start to come into our headstand, we're going to try to first start off in a tabletop position where we're going to bring the wrists underneath the shoulders. Then we're going to bend at the elbows and we're going to replace where our wrists were with our elbows, so that now my elbows are below my shoulders. And then I'm going to be looking for an alignment where the tips of my fingers are kind of meeting the edge of my elbows. And then I'm going to be pushing. Then I'm going to be straightening out my arms to be making this triangular position where I'm able to interlace my fingers. Now I'm going to push my pinkies down, the outer edge of my hands down, and outer edge of my wrists down, forearms and elbows into the floor. And I'm going to get ready with that position. I'm tucking the chin in and bringing not the front of the head, but more of the middle of the head in towards the floor. And that alignment is going to feel uncomfortable for many of us because we're not going to be used to lifting up through the back of the neck and head while the chin comes in towards ourselves. We're not going to be used to that, and so the breathing might not be able to flow as steadily as we start to cultivate it, but we're not putting any weight into the head, so there should be some safe amount of breathing space still here. So coming into this alignment now, we measure with our fingertips, we extend them out, interlace the fingers, bring the top of the head towards the floor, find our bandhas. So I had lost mine. Make sure we find them as we straighten out the legs, and we're going to start to walk the feet in. Depending on your flexibility in the backside of your legs, some of us are not going to be able to walk the feet in all the way, and you're going to be coming from a little bit more of a challenged position. Hopefully we're getting strength through the core, flexibility through the backs of the legs, and we're able to start to push into the feet to lift those hips up over the shoulders. And for some of us, we're starting here. We're trying not to put any weight into the head. We continue to push into the arms so they're the only things touching the floor, and we could draw one knee in at a time and then lower the foot back down. And then second, it's not just the knee, it's that whole thigh. And this foot that's staying on the ground is pushing my hips up off the floor, lengthening my spine. We're engaging the core, the shoulder girdle, and then we can release. So that's the first prep. We can come into the position with our head on the floor. We can stay in downward dog. Then we can start to walk the feet in. And then we can choose to draw one leg at a time in. And maybe you'll be able to in time. So first option, here. second here, third, one knee at a time, and then maybe start to push off the floor. And for some of us, we might not have the control, but we're going to in time get to a place where we find it and we draw both knees into the chest. And from there, we can have the confidence, we're engaging through the core. Now we need to squeeze through the glutes to go ahead and straighten those legs out. And we really need to tuck the tailbone under, draw the ribs and navel in, push into the elbows as we do that. And when you come out, we can go ahead to tuck those knees in and both feet or one foot at a time. And then there will also be another way to come into that headstand that's a little bit more playful. I do like it because it invites you into some confidence that you might not otherwise have. And that's utilizing a wall to balance you out in your headstand. So the only challenge with that is if we're jumping into it, we don't have that slow awareness and strength that comes to us from building the headstand in the way we just demonstrated, starting with our downward dog, moving on to our forearm balance, moving on to the initial half headstand with the feet still on the ground, like we're in downward dog, and slowly starting to draw those knees into the chest really helps us to develop the right core strength, the right alignment awareness, and the right balance. But it can also really help our confidence and encourage us sometimes if we try to jump up into our headstand against a wall or utilize all of the same core awarenesses but have the wall behind us. So in the next part of this demo workshop, we'll set up against the wall and show you how that's done. So I've set up the short edge of my mat against a wall, and you'll do the same. If you think you need more cushioning, you could also try to fold your yoga mat in any kind of way. One way could be just this way here, along a seam, and that would give you some more rooms for your forearms, or even totally folding your yoga mat over. For me, this is enough support, and I like to also be able to extend my mat so that when I start out in my downward dog, my feet are still on my yoga mat, but you want to make sure that you're comfortable. It could take some getting used to this feeling of pushing the outer edge of the hand, wrist, and forearm and elbow in towards the floor. And for some of us, you might even benefit from having a blanket there, just because it's really going to take some core strength and shoulder girdle strength to lift the head off the floor while you're in a headstand, which, like we talked about, is something that many folks don't realize is not supposed to be happening. So if we were coming into a headstand attempt at the wall, you might have done this before, but I'm going to be cueing that we're going to be about 1.5 feet maybe away from the wall, or maybe about 1 foot. So I'm going to be starting out maybe in downward dog just for a nice just to keep up with the sequence, imagining we've just done our vinyasa, and maybe you are coming out of your sequence and you are doing a vinyasa. We start off in downward dog, we hop or just place the knees down, we lower from where our wrists are, we lower our elbows down, we bring the edge of our hands to our elbows, and then we stick out our hands to make a triangular position. That's going to be our little pillow for our head. And for some of us, we might be just trying to learn to breathe steadily here as we start to straighten out the legs and find the core as we walk the feet in. And this is where a person who doesn't have a lot of flexibility in the backs of the legs will benefit, because they can engage their core, their shoulder girdle, and we're going to lift 1 foot at a time. And we're going to use the foot that stays on the floor as a way to push ourselves up into this position. And then the way I'm holding now my left leg is a way for me to engage my core. But a person could also be playing with this for the first time, and maybe you'll just float both feet right away up, and with the feet against the wall, find your core. So I'm going to tuck my tailbone under, draw my glutes, my belly, my lower belly, my navel in, and that's what's going to give me the strength to manifest the balance to lift 1 foot off the wall at a time, and maybe then the other. But to start, a person might just be having their feet along the wall, and they're really going to be focusing on lifting the head off the floor, lengthening the neck, squeezing the glutes and the core, and maybe lowering one leg at a time. And then when you're able to, you float one foot off the wall and then maybe the other. And we want to remember we're not pushing the top of the head in towards the floor. We're lifting through we're pushing into the floor through the outer edge of our hands, wrists and forearms and elbows to help us stay engaged and supported through the shoulder girdle in our headstand. Now that we've had an opportunity to demonstrate the headstand inversion sequence and to discuss different ways to modify this practice, if you're still developing it, I hope that you'll take this practice and start to incorporate it into your daily or weekly sequence so that you can start to tap into yoga's full potential and your own full potential as well.